So there you have it. The first take on the index. The Sensex is up about 40 points. The Nifty is up about 17 odd points. Range bound between levels of 17,716 to 17,792 on the upside.
More than the index, it is about single stocks, individual names which are making all the moves, and 21 points on the Nifty. So as we've been saying, the markets pulled back. By the way, the pullback and the reversal rather on the banks is even sharper. The high of the bank Nifty is 42,865, and we'll end at about actually far off that level.
Hello and welcome to CNBC-TV18. You're watching Markets Today, the show where we track the top headlines. I'm Ekta Batra. Here are the top stories for the day. The Sensex and the Nifty end with marginal gains after a range-bound session. Banks and mid-caps also gained in tandem with the blue chips. Biocon Biologics and Serum Institute restructure their strategic partnership. Serum will invest a total of $300 million, valuing the Biocon subsidiary at $6 billion. Adar Poonawalla tells CNBC-TV18 he has no plans to increase his stake for the moment. Biocon rallies over 3%. Crompton Greaves Consumer Electrical slumps after its CEO of over 7 years exits. Analysts fret over the new CEO's lack of operating experience in the sector. Nestle India ends flat despite beating street estimates in the fourth quarter. Profits rise nearly 25%, reports the highest growth rate in a decade. Nelco soars over 12% on an 86% yearly jump in net profits. Meanwhile, Mahindra Logistics tanks on fourth quarter results. Ipca Labs slips 10% after it laps up a 33% stake in Unichem for over 1,000 crores and plans an open offer for 26% stake in what is seen as a pricey deal. UPL2 sulks on weak tidings from global peer Adama, and Mahindra Lifespace perks up as it lands a prime redevelopment project in West Mumbai. All right, those were all of the top stories. Here's a lineup of what we have in store for you. We'll bring you market opinion from Harsha Upadhyay of Kotak Mutual Fund and Matt Orton of Raymond James Investment. In the corporate voices today, we have Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw of Biocon, Rajiv Juneja of Mankind Pharma. All right, well, let's kick off the show with the day's market action. A range-bound session on Dalal Street ended with marginal gains. The Sensex gained nearly 75 points and the Nifty gained over 25 points. The Nifty Bank Index also eked out marginal gains. Prashant Nair is here with a wrap.
Well, it looked promising at one point during the session, but by close, the gains were given back. The Nifty ending just about 20-odd points higher. Banks also pulled back. The Bank Nifty saw a sharp reversal, ending fairly flat by 3:30. Mid-caps and small caps. Mid-caps were flat, but small-cap index kept hopes alive. The index was up about 0.5% or so. And that's the reason why, even though advance to decline ratio was positive, even though it pulled back, it was still positive, thanks to what was happening in that part of the market. Large cap gains coming through in Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, both those doing well. Adani Enterprises on the Nifty, but other Adani stocks which are not part of the main Nifty index were also high, anything between 5 and 10%. Britannia and IndusInd were the other large stocks which did quite well. Cuts coming through in names like HDFC Life, UPL, HDFC Bank, which saw some selling pressure. Railway infrastructure stocks have all been the rage. I mean, they were up yesterday between 5 and 7%, and if anything, there were more gains. RITES, RVNL, IRFC, Texmaco Rail, that entire pack was on fire. Indiabulls Real Estate for the second day running did well. BSC, the exchange, sharp gains. Nelco, Saxoft, Religare, BL Kashyap were some of the others which in the broader space did quite okay. There were losers as well, and large single stock names which lost. Crompton, for example, was down sharply. There was news with almost all of them. Ipca was down sharply. Elecon Engineering and Atul Auto were the four that I want to highlight, which were down the most with volumes. The market is showing some signs that it wants to kind of regain the momentum it had lost about a week back. Yesterday was a case in point. Today, we saw flashes of it, but I mean, not quite. So we need more confirmation in that sense. And if you want to talk about a level, 17,863 is that level above which I think some upsides open up really for the market. Global markets have been very, very quiet. It's a big week for earnings in the US. And of course, we get some inflation and GDP data later this Thursday and Friday out of the US as well. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Prashant. Thanks very much for that. In market opinion then, Harsha Upadhyay of Kotak Mutual Fund is uncertain about the market recovering From the range-bound session, Matt Orton of Raymond James Investment is concerned about India's IT services.
We believe that it's going to be a range-bound market, at least in the immediate term. The earnings upgrade cycle that had started post-COVID has kind of paused for the last 3 quarters or so, and is unlikely to see any resumption anytime soon. So to that extent, unless we see another earnings upgrade cycle, we don't see too many positive triggers for the market at this point of time.
I think with India, the fact that the trend of higher lows remains intact, I think that's very, very encouraging. I think the one challenge to Indian equities is going to be IT services. You know, Infosys didn't do any help when they reported earnings last week. In the near term, I think it might be a little bit too early to be bottom fishing in IT services, but I would say medium term. So after the next quarter, hopefully we can see the earnings cycle start to bottom. I wouldn't even say we're bottom fishing in banks because they've done well relative to the rest of the market.
All right, well, on to the second headline now. Biocon rallied over 3% on news that Serum Institute will double its investment into Biocon Biologics subsidiary of Biocon. The two companies have revamped their strategic deal. Just to put it into perspective, in 2021, there was a deal which was struck between the two where Serum would take 15% stake in Biocon Biologics for in terms of the valuation. At that point in time, it stood at around $4.9 billion, and they would have access to around 100 million vaccine doses as well. So now this is entirely restructured. The structure now is basically $150 million in terms of equity investment, which was in any case done in 2021, and an additional $150 million equity investment, which is basically via the conversion of a loan which Serum had given to Biocon Biologics in order to fund the Viatris deal. So now they will still have access to 100 million vaccine doses, but in terms of total equity investment, Serum will have around $300 million for around a 4.9% stake. So as you can see, the valuations for Biocon Biologics as per the company has risen from 2021, where it was $4.9 billion to $6 billion currently. And we have the stake which Serum had potentially at 15%, which is now re-evaluated at 4.9% for $300 million. So that is basically the deal structure which both the companies will have going forward. We did in fact speak to the management of Biocon as well as Adar Poonawalla. Let's listen in to what they had to say.
This is a 10-15 year horizon and vision that we're looking at. It's a 15-year arrangement. So there's plenty of time, to generate some good sales, through our other vaccines. And it's not just limited to vaccines that we make. In the strategic partnership, if Biocon or Biologics have opportunities and other vaccines that they find through their network and partners that they would want us to manufacture, we can manufacture that as well. So the agreement that we have now with them covers, and is not limited to all of these sort of opportunities. We've got a profit-sharing arrangement in the agreement which shares the profits, of the vaccines that will be made.
There was an original deal that was struck in 2021 about offering a 15% stake in return for, certain financials linked to vaccines. Now that has been replaced by a straight equity, investment, whereas, Serum had already invested $150 million in Biocon Biologics, and there was a loan that is now being converted into equity, which will add another $150 million and make it an aggregate investment of $300 million at an approximate aggregate valuation of $6 billion. So I think that's the change in the restructured arrangement that we now have with Serum Institute.
Okay, well, let's move on then. The third headline today. Crompton Greaves Consumer Electricals nosedived over 12%. The company's CEO, Matthew Job, has resigned from his post. Crompton Greaves Consumer Electricals has appointed Promeet Ghosh as the new managing director and CEO. Surbhi Sutaria joins in with the details on this.
Thanks so much for that. So Crompton is clearly the stock of the day. The company has announced the realignment in their top management. They have announced that Promeet Ghosh will be taking over as the new MD and CEO, as Matthew Job will resign from his position as CEO and Executive Director. They've also announced that Mr. Shantanu Ghoshla, who was previously the MD, will now be appointed as the Executive Vice Chairman for 1 year. Thereafter, he will serve as a non-executive Vice Chairman till December 2025. Now, Promeet has been a deputy head at Temasek India for almost 10 years. He has served as a non-executive director on Crompton's board for 6 years and on Schneider Electric's board for almost 2 years. But the street is worried that he does not have enough experience to run the company, as he has largely been an investment banker, though the association with the company is a mild positive. Now, let's look at the Crompton's performance over the last 5 years. In the last 5 years since the demerger, the company's performance has been pretty decent. On a compounded annual growth rate basis, it's seen a revenue growth of 7% and a PAT growth of 5%. But it's the sector-leading ROE of 35% that has impressed the investors. When you look at the shareholding pattern between 2016 and now, in 2016, 34% of it was held by Temasek and Advent. But they have exited from the company since then. And as per the latest disclosures, 85% is split between FIIs and DIIs. So the concerns about who is going to run the company continues. To sum up, the lack of operational experience from the incoming CEO, multiple leadership changes in the past with the CFO exiting in May 2022, and also where the strategic priorities of the company lie with their recent integration with the Butterfly, all continue to weigh down the stock. But it's still pretty inexpensive when you compare it to their peers' valuation. Crompton is trading at around 22 times FY24 PE, whereas Havells is trading at 55 times FY24 PE.
Okay, all right, Surbhi, thanks very much for that. Time for a break now, but stay tuned. We'll be back in a jiffy with all of the other top stories.